Hey, I'm Daniel Berger, and this is Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. Welcome to the podcast where Metro New York real estate meets great stories and a douse of humor. Forget the dry sales talk. Here we dive into the fun and unexpected moments of real estate. Join me each week as we explore Westchester, Long Island, the Bronx, and more. You'll hear about the people, the places, and the crazy situations that make this industry so interesting. Thanks to our sponsor, Remax Prestige Properties, we're ready to share the lighter side of real estate. Whether you're a pro, a buyer, or just curious, we've got something for everyone. Ready for today's adventure? Let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker with Daniel Berger. We are lucky to have on today's episode Skye Michiels, who started as a high school teacher, which is, we'll get into that because that's what my mom did as well. He started as a high school teacher. He's been in real estate for over 20 years. He's the founder of Heart Coaching. So really from former teacher and now to coach. And he was also the former head of teaching at Compass at a point. With that, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Dan, for having me. I'm super excited.
So what's interesting is teaching is a great profession to really learn because that's really what real estate is, right? Any first-time home buyer, they don't just come and buy the house, right? There has to be an educational process that you have to take them from point A to point Z, really, in the whole process. And it's not just because otherwise they're going to feel like, oh my God, this is rather than it happening to them, it's happening for them and by them.
Yeah. In teaching, it was one of those funny things. I became a high school history teacher. It was a lifelong dream. And I didn't really ever think about getting into real estate until I realized how poor I was as a teacher. And I got into real estate just like thinking it would just be a little side gig. I would sell 3 to 4 homes a year and just have that as like my teacher side gig. And very quickly, every skill that I had as a teacher, I applied it in real estate and it just took off. And you think about what your great teachers are actually really good listeners. Your great teachers are able to communicate information in a way that people understand it. You think about the patience your best teachers had, right? Like in the process of teaching you when you're a high school student, when you apply that into real estate, it really is a perfect career to segue into real estate in many ways.
I feel like with teaching, the job is to motivate, challenge, and get the student to learn the topic to be able to then
Yep.
either, well, A, pass the test, but obviously incorporate it into whatever that you're trying to ask. I think real estate, I think those skills are good, but real estate's a little different because at the end of the day, our clients don't need to pass the test, but they need to know that like we've been their coach and their guide, and they feel comfortable that we are taking them along this journey, right? Like we're their expert, and so
Yeah.
that they feel that like they don't at the end of the day they have the house or the condo or the
Yeah.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
and they don't have to know everything about what happened, but they have to know that there was rational reasoning of why they got there and it's what they wanted.
Yeah.
But there's a huge form of education, and I would say that one thing that you said I laughed at, and I always laugh at, yeah, I'm going to do this part time,
I know.
and it is probably one of the worst businesses to do as a side hustle. So the side hustle would make sense if you're like contractor or you
Yeah.
have those skills, right? So for you to personally buy a few properties, flip the properties, and you being your own agent, that's different as opposed to taking
Yeah.
people along the journey.
Yeah. And I didn't know any better. In 2002 was a little different too, because when I started, we still had carbon copy contracts. We had cell phones. We didn't have like text messaging. So you could control it a little bit more in the beginning of the when I started in 2002. I think being a part-time realtor today is probably not what I would recommend for most people. And I feel lucky that when I got in, if you remember the 2002 days, interest rates we had 100% financing. The first time home buyers were really active. So most of the people I knew were buying a home. So that's where I really got started was all the people that I knew that actually most of the teachers that I taught with actually ended up using me as a realtor. And it really was this amazing training ground where I could bridge both because I did both for about 3 years because I didn't really believe that the success I was seeing in real estate was not accidental. And I grew up poor. And then you work your entire life to get stability, and you get that as a teacher, and then you start selling real estate. And I remember,
You
yeah,
go from pensions and
yeah,
healthcare
yeah. What am I doing?
and
Yeah.
summers off. Like honestly, I'm surprised that your family didn't make you go for therapy and
Yeah,
take
there's a little nerves.
there
And
must be something wrong with you because why
yeah,
would you ever leave that?
exactly. I
You know,
remember I made my salary in a month. It was probably my second year, and it was probably I think it was either June or it was this after the spring market. And for some reason, all my closings that spring happened in 1 month. And it was just, I made my salary in a month. And I'm like sitting here thinking, like, oh my God, in 1 month, I made as much money as I'm going to make as an entire year of teaching. And it was the first time where I was like, all right, I need to make a decision which way I'm going here because it wasn't a sustainable life doing two full-time jobs. So in 2005, I left teaching, went real estate full time, and it was haven't really looked back ever since. But the irony now, and lots of years into the journey, I'm back to being a teacher again. Just I'm teaching realtors now how to sell real estate.
what's interesting, are you really teaching them how to sell real estate or are you really teaching people about motivation
Yeah.
and hard work and follow-up skills?
Yeah.
Because I think that teaching so my background is this is like my ninth year in real estate. I have a life of sales and marketing. I was the original K-Cup manager for Green Mountain Coffee, selling the
Nice.
K-Cups. I was going around the country and people like, oh, that's a fad. It's never going to
Yeah.
work. And it's still here today. And I worked for Poland Spring Nestle Waters selling bottled water. They're like, why would we pay for water? It's free at the tap and things like that. And then I was in a solar company that went bankrupt. And my wife, so you need to do something and you should be a real estate agent. You'd be really good at it. And it was something that I never really thought about. I didn't really see it as a career. It was like, especially for men, right? It seemed like it was more like part time for people that were home a lot, but
Yeah.
that's not what it is, right? I work more hours and days now than I ever did in any of my other jobs because, especially because, like you said, we don't have a phone anymore. We have a computer that a small computer in our
Yep.
which
Yep.
bombards you with texts and phone calls and messages. And so those need to be attended to. So that's where I'm sure, as with a trainer, you teach people what to do. And for me, I've been successful because when that phone or text happens, I reply to it.
Yeah.
Some people are like, no, that's my time. And I've had people, you leave messages and they're like, if it's after 5 o'clock on Friday, I'm not going to be picking up
Yeah.
the phone until Sunday or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah, I think the beautiful thing about real estate is there is no one way to do it in the sense of that works for you. Boundaries, like you just described, work for some other people. And I think the best thing about real estate is that there are definitely pathways and things you can teach that are commonalities, but for the most part, we're all artists to some extent. And I think that's what's really key. And I think the biggest thing for people out there that are listening, if you want to be successful, you got to be authentic to yourself and you have to lean into what your strengths are and the way that you operate. My theory is you actually enjoy, like I'm an extreme extrovert, for example. So I love getting with people, but other clients of mine are introverted, very successful, but they're introverted. So they need that recharge time. So for them, having that phone, I'm the same way. I have my phone on all the time. I have no problem answering a call at any time at night, things like that's fun for me. But for some people, they need that time to recharge. So I think the biggest thing you want to remember is lean into your authenticity. Whoever you are, be it and be it fully. Don't try to create something that you're not. Because if you are an introverted and let's say you just need that time to recharge, if you don't recharge, you're going to burn out. For some of us, like probably me and you, I thrive on the phone calls. I thrive on the busyness. I thrive on that energy of the excitement. So for me, I don't need as much recharge as maybe other people. But I think the biggest thing I do is now is you're right. I don't teach how to sell real estate in the sense of filling in contracts or anything like that. What I teach, I really teach agents how to build a business that is built on repeat referral, relationship-based business and allows you to create systems and processes that you eventually could retire from within real estate. And I think we've lost this art of the relationship-based sale and the human connection that is real estate. And that's really what I'm trying to bring back into the space is the joy of helping people and the joy of taking someone that you have a relationship or connection with, either helping them directly or allowing that connection to be so strong that you generate referrals that come in for free as well.
I think I'm you, just heavier, older, and a little bit more hair, but not much more hair. What I love about your philosophy is love your business and your life.
That's it.
And if you love your, and I do agree that some people, everyone's different. But the other thing is, so the funny thing is, I might be an extrovert in real estate, having a podcast and doing some other things, but I'm not really.
Yeah.
If we were going to a bar, I would not be the one dancing on the tables. I'd be in the corner, not really,
Yeah.
because that's not my thing, right?
Yeah.
So I think so I have to flex, right? So if I'm dealing with an introvert, I have to change the way that I operate to
Yeah.
make them feel comfortable because that's really it's really making people feel comfortable. But for me, I know that if I get a text, I have to return the message at some point. So why not do it now? If I have a police officer that's working the graveyard shift, why wouldn't
Yeah.
I? And if I'm up at 1 a.m., why wouldn't I
Yeah.
answer him?
Yeah.
So I've always tried to do that. So what's interesting is I've done customer appreciation because I'm a Zillow guy. I
Yeah.
started and I was paying Zillow extra money myself because I knew that you need to be a buyer's agent to start. That's also how
Yeah.
you learn the business and buy. It's not everyone wants to work with buyers, so they were
Yeah.
easier to get. And Zillow was this method of people click on a button and then my phone rings. I pick up the phone and I
Cool.
start the dialogue.
Yeah.
And and people are people, and I didn't care if it was a
Yeah.
$20,000 land sale or $100,000 co-op, because those things, and my track history is that those things turned into, then they buy it, then they sell it, then they have friends,
Yep.
and then those things from the early on. I've now done double digit deals with the people early on,
Yep.
and those, like you said, those are free. I pay
Yeah.
for them year one, and then after that it's free.
Exactly. And I think, again, I think that the brilliance of Zillow is the fact that you can build your database and build your portfolio. I call them forever clients, right? We want those clients that are with us forever and that use us or refer us. And the best part about Zillow is it connects you directly to those early sales that you need in your career. And now, as you gain years and sales under your belt, as long as you stay in contact, which it sounds like you've done a great job with them, as long as you maintain that connection and relationship, what you can then do is you continue to build this base of your business that comes in for free, even if you have to pay for some of those other leads. And that's what allows you to be successful. And I think one of the things that realtors struggle with is that they just get preoccupied with the most urgent thing on the to do today. And they forget that we have to build the CRMs. We have to build the connection plans. We got to host the client appreciation parties. We got to reach out to people on their home sale anniversary. We have to do all these things that make people remember us. Because Daniel, if I asked you what you had for breakfast this morning, you probably could remember what you ate for breakfast this morning, right?
I could, because it's nothing.
Okay.
Because I'm on Ozempic, and
Nice.
so I'm actually on Zepbound. But
There you
that's
go, man. Good. How much weight are you down? How much have you lost?
so I went from 245, I was 213 today. And
Nice.
actually, what's the funny thing is, one of my clients was actually a heart doctor, and because it's not about, it's the connection, right? And so I got involved in him, and that was like 4 years ago or whatever. And so now he's having me look to help his son. So
Amazing.
everything is like a combination, right? So
Yeah.
so what's interesting is, so I've done things like Customer Appreciation Day, where in my first couple of years I gave pies out, and I didn't just want to give a pie or say, come to my office for a pie, which many
Yeah.
people do. I said, I'm going to deliver your pie.
Great.
And I did 100, and it's hard to deliver. And my idea was to do everything around Thanksgiving, because I didn't
Love
want it
it.
to be religious. I wanted it to be me
Yep.
thanking my clients. And so I did that, and I let people choose between a pumpkin pie, an apple pie, a
Brilliant.
cherry pie. And so it was like an ordering. They ordered it, I bought them, and then I delivered them. And then the next year, I needed a little help delivering because I had
Yeah.
175 people. And then I did some other things with other ways to send it via electronically. And then I did something that was a blanket. So I made like a really like $125 blanket, and it had my logo on it and my name was on it, whatever. And I had that shipped. So
Great.
those went, that was probably like $13,000. But guess
Yeah.
what? I'm
One
sending
deal.
it to 200 clients who now have a blanket.
Yeah.
And what was cool about it was clients were taking pictures of their children and their pets
Yeah.
on the blanket. And then I was able to use that for social media. It was a buzz that it's people still talk about the blankets.
It's great. And again, I think that the key thing is you want to think about anchor points throughout the year where you can create these reconnections. Because going back to the breakfast analogy, if I ask you the question, what did you have for dinner 30 days ago? You probably can't
No
remember.
idea.
And
Correct.
what happens over time, people are just living their life. And it happens to successful realtors all the time where they say, "Oh, who was your realtor?" And the person's, "I think it was, wait, let me look at they can't remember their realtor." Whereas my clients and my students that I teach now, my current real estate clients, that I'm coaching, the goal is that when someone says, "Who is your realtor?" they say, "Skye Michaels was my realtor." If you anything involving real estate, you have to call them. Like my goal was to create salespeople that were out there in the marketplace selling me for free. And that
Yeah.
only happens when we maintain connections. A lot of realtors will market to their clients, send them newsletters or send them like postcards or whatever, but they never have the conversation. And that's the mistake that most people are making right now,
Yeah.
especially in our markets that have constricted, where the deals have gotten fewer. We're seeing record low numbers. So upstate New York, especially, like you guys, I know it's not like there's tons of inventory on your market. So you got to get in
I
front of
mean,
that
that's true, except my numbers keep going up.
because
But
you're
the
doing the
numbers
right
keep
thing.
going up because
Yeah,
of the things that we're talking about. The
that's
other thing
right.
I did was I actually wrote a book. I don't know if
Oh,
you can see.
nice.
So, The Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. You don't have to
Awesome.
read. You have it's $10 on Amazon, but
Excellent.
it's stories. It's 13 anecdotes of relationship building exercises with my clients, from houses that had skulls in it, guns in it, pornography, clean out, lending money. So I know Compass has their concierge program. Danny
Yeah,
Berger has his own concierge program
excellent.
where I've lent money to people, get to the closing. I've risked money to try to in
Yeah,
where the family wouldn't have been able to get any money if we didn't pay a debt or something to be able to list the house or close. That's a story. And what's interesting is, so this year's my customer appreciation was I did a book party. And
oh,
so
great.
I did my book launch. I had 150 clients attended in my backyard with tents, barbecue, catered barbecue. I had a bartender. I had my wife made us get I had like the porta potties that were Kohler, right?
Yeah,
So it wasn't, I didn't have, and it was probably like a $15,000 party.
great. Yeah,
It's, but that keeps the buzz alive and
it
people
does.
talked about it. I was able to invite all my clients. So
That's it.
150 people attended. So
Yeah.
those are things that, how do I make me better, different, and special? Because
Yep.
at the end of the day, there are a lot of agents that,
Sure.
but you know what? You say this, the biggest part is you have to show up, right?
Yep.
So it's less about what you do, right? More about committing to showing up. And so clearly you have to show up and have a good head on your shoulders and be able to take people through the process. But there are more people that could do that. But not everyone does that. Not everyone commits to showing up, and not everyone can do both.
Yeah. And again, I always boil it down into if you can make someone feel like they matter to you, they will love you forever. And everything you just described are examples of how you take the normal process of real estate and elevate it so you make someone feel like they matter to you. You helping someone pay off a debt so they can sell their home to move on with their life. You showed the care for that person and knowledge of the fact that they had a need that you could solve and you made them feel like they matter. And I think as realtors out there, if you can think about how can I make someone feel like they matter to me? Let me throw a client appreciation party. Let me drop off a pie. Let me write a book and collaborate on this, whatever it might be. That's your goal every day, is to invest in ways that people feel like they matter to you. And when you do that and you actually are authentic in it, what happens is people will remember you and start referring you. And that's the golden ticket inside of real estate.
Being authentic is so important.
It's
Like,
everything.
I'm not a suit guy. I'm actually a shorts guy, right? Like even in the winter, I'll show up at a showing wearing shorts. But it makes my clients are like they're wearing their sweats or their whatever. Like today, it's the athletic wear, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But like
yeah,
it's not. It's a different. That's today's day. That's who I probably bond more. Where I'm like, you don't want me for what I'm wearing or what I'm
yeah,
driving. You want me because it's me, right? And to another example, so it was funny at the book party was so of course I bought a book for everyone and I signed them. I spent the entire thing signing books. My hand hurt like you wouldn't believe.
I could imagine.
But people were going around and they're like, I'm chapter 3, I'm chapter 13, I'm chapter 4. So
Yeah,
they were like, so like the book is not doesn't make fun. It's more light. And
yeah,
while there were serious conversations and things that were had in the book, I'd actually, it's funny because my wife and daughter are lawyers. I didn't have anyone sign a release and I didn't have anyone sign a release for, and I used their names. There's
yeah,
one person's name I didn't use. I think there's one I changed, and I also used people's pictures. And I didn't get a release because I'm like, I
yeah.
don't think I need. I don't think I need to.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And again, you have a great relationship with your people, so therefore that allows you to have that trust and they trust you and to honor them.
And
So
then when people, so that it's not a bad marketing tool, right? Because now other people might say, oh, and it's certainly something now that I'm going to use at closing gifts, right? I'm going to
yeah,
give people a copy of my book, or even for some people, I've had it where I'm showing houses. You're like, oh, my wife told me
yeah,
you wrote a book. And so I'm like,
yeah,
oh, here's one. And you
yeah,
give it to them because that's a little bit about, because that's how people want to know, like, what is it like to work with you? One of my
yeah.
clients, I showed 205 houses to. There's the dog.
Yeah.
205 houses to over the course of like 18 months or
Yeah.
something like that. And it was because they weren't ready to buy because they didn't find the right house yet.
Yeah.
And people are like, why aren't you firing them? I'm like, fire them. Why would I
Yeah.
fire a client? They're actively looking, they're serious. It turned out they bought something for like 1.2 million, all cash. They
Amazing.
refer when their mother passed, I sold their mother's multifamily for 1 million, and they referred like 3 other people to me. So it's
Yep.
you have to. It's always about the long game, right?
It
It can't
is.
just be. It's not about a transaction. If it's going to be about the transaction, you're probably slightly doomed. It has to be about people and about the end game.
That's it. It's everything. And again, I think it's a kind of thing we're as a society, we're conditioned to want instant results. And unfortunately, a lot of things, the most things inside of real estate are not instant and they take time and they take effort. And you have to have faith that what you do today will give you a result at some point in the future, but you can't get preoccupied with the results. You got to get preoccupied with the process and the actions you're taking. And that's one of the biggest challenges. One of the reasons people get out of real estate is because of the fact that they are like working for months and there's no paycheck right away. But if you stay committed to the process and you stay committed to the actions, those paychecks as are going to start to roll in.
But you also, so that's also where it takes a certain type of person because yes, they can roll in. And like you said, you in a 3 month period, you made what you made in a year. But that's when you now need to be a smart business person, right?
Right.
Because so I own my brokerage, right? I bought the brokerage fairly early. I bought it before I was even an agent for 2 years. I bought it like in 15 months because I wanted to be my own boss and I
Yeah.
didn't want to have to listen. I didn't want to have to be like, that's the way it's done, or you have to do this. And so I try to, the people that work in my brokerage, it's really more, I'm trying to help them run their own business. And I try to uh, make them better, not get in their way. Things that when you make that much money so quickly, it sounds like you're making a lot, but it's not because there could be dry times or whatever. But you also need to save and you need to
Yeah.
put money away for taxes. And what I see that's bad is too many people in our business don't have health care,
Yeah.
especially if they're single. So if you have a spouse and your spouse has it, okay, that's good. And they don't really save any money for their retirement.
Yep.
So it's
We don't have education. I think that's one of the challenges and problems, right? We don't teach people how to run a business. We teach them how to fill in a contract and open a door and market maybe, but we never really teach financial wellness. inside of real estate. And that's one of the things that we really dive into. If people I work with, one of the first things is we got to get clear on your numbers, on your goals, and what your financial health and wellness is. We often don't think about finances as being a category of health and wellness, but it's one of the most important ones, right? Financial stress is one of the worst things you can have. So,
Because then you seem desperate to your clients or you're pushing them.
yeah,
And that was the thing with my 205 houses, is that I was never pushing them, and I
yeah,
would push them away. I
yep,
push people away all the time. Yesterday, we had a really bad rainstorm yesterday, and it took me an hour to go a place that should have taken me 20 minutes to get to. I get there. It's one of the worst multifamilies I've ever seen.
yeah,
And guy's wife was like pushing him to, we need to buy a house because you're a contractor and that's how we're going to make money. And I'm like, and I basically had to flat out say, I think this is one of the worst multifamily houses I've ever seen, because I had to make sure that, and the husband thanked me profusely,
yeah,
but I was like, but it
yeah,
was like barely a multifamily. There was so many things that it's going to be. And I'm like, you're going to lose money if you buy this. And I didn't, and it's not about that. It's about, not everyone's going to say that to people. And
yeah,
so I feel, so I think the other thing is dealing with younger real estate agents. So I became better because I was in my 21st year or so of being a business consultant
yeah,
and in sales and marketing, so that and also I've been a homeowner.
yeah,
So being a home, like, it's slightly hard to be a really good realtor if you've never owned either a home or an apartment, because things go wrong. And I own a townhouse. We gutted it, got
yeah.
ready. 3 days before the tenant was taking over, there was no heat on in the place because the tenant was there first. And it was another 4 months of fighting with the insurance company, getting the money and rebuilding what we just fixed. No one had ever moved in. And so
Yeah.
those are things that I can
You can
I
speak to it.
sense. There's more than empathy. There's sympathy, right? Because
Yeah,
empathy,
yeah. There's
sympathy is when you
experience.
have it too.
Yeah, yeah,
So, and so as people are looking at getting investments, I talk to them about, it's not just like HDTV $1 million listing. Are you protecting yourself with an LLC? There's a lot of different things
sure.
that it can be.
Yeah. What,
That's
Daniel,
as a
what's like,
professional.
what's your greatest struggle inside of real estate right now?
You know what? I wouldn't. That's a great question. I don't really have a greatest struggle
Okay.
because I have a team of people. So it's not a struggle. So I probably have, if I maybe did 60% of the business last year, right?
Yeah,
But I don't push anyone that works for me to do, they should be them, they should be their own
sure.
people.
Yeah,
I don't give anyone what their goals should be. Like, somebody can come to me and say, "This is what my goal is," and I'll work with them to keep them on track to reach the goal that they set. But I'm not setting
yeah,
a goal. What's interesting is I do a fairly good job of keeping my costs minimal, so that, I mean, we are in an up market. So it's interesting when you say that we have less homes and less this and less that.
yeah,
My numbers keep going up, but I also am prepared if there is a slowdown, that I don't have huge fixed costs.
yeah,
I actually don't have an admin. Think about it. I did 65 deals last year. I did, like, for, it was like 45 million in sales.
yeah,
I don't have an admin. I
yeah,
do my own memos. I do my showings, for the most part. So I don't need to. So some people talk about scaling for the scaling.
yeah,
I don't really need to
yeah.
scale.
Great.
Scaling for the sake of scaling, I think, is dangerous, and sometimes is more about scaling people's egos.
Yeah,
Like you said, you have to be authentic. I just want to be the best me that I can be,
yeah,
and then, and that's me as a salesperson. But as the broker, I want to help others be the best agents that they can, and I'm very available for teaching, mentoring. They shadow me. We go on deals together. My agents will send me their offers so that we can look at it and say, "Oh, did you think about doing it this way?"
yeah,
Um, and so my phone, so half of the time my phone's ringing for clients that want me to help them buy, sell, and lease, and the other half are my agents who are asking. So I don't necessarily want more agents. I want to be more involved with the agents that we have to help grow their business.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I don't really those are cool things to have, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Great problem.
Obviously, you never. So it's funny because people talk to me about business planning. Okay, we're at the end of the year. We're going to start putting the plan together for next year. I have never, this is 9 years. I've never had a budget because I just had someone call me 2 weeks ago that said they bought like a $2 million house with me 4 years ago, and guess what? They're getting transferred now, so
Yeah.
they need to sell. I would have never been able to put that on my plan that they're going to do that.
Sure.
If someone dies, right?
I think the best business plans too aren't really structured around results. The best business plans are structured around actions and commitments you're making to yourself. So, for example, just take health as an example. You're trying to lose weight, right? For you to name a result is the wrong thing. But for you to name the number of workouts you're going to do, the what diet you're going to follow and how you're going to follow it, if you focus on the actions, that's the real key of a business plan. And I think most agents create result-based business plans, which are the wrong way to go because, as you just highlighted, sometimes the results are a matter of luck. So if you are creating a business plan, or if anyone you know does want to create one, it only should be structured around actions and not results. You
Well,
could,
so I agree
yeah,
100%. But the thing that I would say is I don't think it's based off of luck.
agree. Yeah, yeah. No, when I say
And
luck, you could say I want to do 30 deals, but you don't know exactly what the volume might be, for example.
no, so I agree
Yeah.
with that. I would just not use the word luck because luck makes it feel like you didn't do anything to
Yeah.
make that. You make your own luck, right?
Correct.
Where the reason why those people called you is because you've done the blocking and tackling, as you said, of you've done customer appreciation events. You're communicating with them. So when life cycle events happen, your phone is the one that rings. So it's not luck that they called you,
Yep. Agreed.
it's you've earned that. And
Yep.
so I liken it to I'm actually a member of the Golf Writers of America. A friend of
Nice.
mine was, and I've done a lot of different sports related
Yeah.
stuff. Friend of mine was a sportscaster for a non-union TV station. And so I helped him. And so I would actually go on things and I would do the camera and I would interview people. And people were like, oh my God, you're so lucky. You've been in the Yankee locker room, the Mets locker room, you've been
Yeah.
Jets, Giants, Rangers, Islanders. I go, you make your own luck, right?
Yeah.
Because I made myself available to help a friend. So I invested my time and energy into doing something because it was fun, right?
Yeah.
it was like, yeah, that's a cool thing. So it wasn't lucky that I was in the locker room. I earned that. And
Yeah.
I feel it's the same way here. But you're right. I would say maybe it's more blessed because,
Yeah.
that someone decides to call me. I feel honored that these people that are moving, that I helped them buy a pretty big house. They're in my book, actually. The
Yeah.
Ladies Rules is their chapter, and they were at my book signing. They
Nice.
loved it. They loved that there was a chapter devoted to them with their picture and all that. I guess that's how you can secure a $2 million listing, is to
Yeah.
write a book.
That's
But
it.
it's hard to, but that's the thing, that you dot I's, you cross T's, and you do blocking and tackling is what I call it,
Yeah.
so that when those things happen, and I guess a lot of people, saving is important, right? Saving, putting money into, I'm a little older, so I don't, but but I've also become an investor too. So I
Yeah.
actually this year I just invested in a firehouse with one of my clients. My wife and I are 25% owners of a firehouse that
Nice.
is going to have an event space, coffee and wine bar downstairs, and 4 apartments above.
Great.
Up in Beacon, New York. So you
Oh yeah.
said
Yeah. Beacon's
so
beautiful, man. Great.
and
And it's
Beacon
amazing what that's done. I grew up
100%.
there. You would not set foot in Beacon when I was growing up.
So when you love your business and love your
Yeah.
life, and when you really try to understand and enjoy your clients, one of my clients, I've done like $10 million of sales in Greenwich alone with this guy in the last year. And then we were looking at this property, and I'm like, are you interested in bringing on investors? Because I see how he runs his business. And he's having, it's a little bit more work sometimes that
Yeah.
people would rather do it. But we talked about he could scale a little bit, right? If he doesn't have to, if he gets in for 50%, he can do double the amount. He's also, and so potentially it's making more money, even though it's half because he had more projects that, and it's also divesting.
Yeah.
So we did that. We met, we talked, whatever, the wives met and everyone's, let's do it. So he has other investors, but we're like a 25% owner of the firehouse. So,
Congrats.
so that's another way of how do you build your own, like, it's not just what are you doing. So now I'm learning more about it, right? So now I'm an investor. So it helps me with credibility a little bit when I work with other people, right? Because they see
Yeah,
that, oh,
for sure.
there's a sale and all that other stuff.
Helps you to coach some of your younger agents to get, we all know, we all could, if we could go back, would probably buy earlier in our lives. And the reality is owning real estate as a real estate agent is a really good and healthy thing to do to invest in your industry because real estate
Right.
is not going anywhere. It's one of
Plus you know about it, right?
yeah,
So that's what, like, what do I know about AI? I
yeah,
don't. So
yeah,
me or crypto, those are things that are so risky and not my bailiwick. So I shouldn't be really investing in those.
yeah,
But me investing, like you said, in real estate, our foot's on the ground. We know what's going on. We can help get tenants and all
yeah,
that other thing, all those other things. And that is a good divestment from taking money out of the stock market to do that. But again, it's, so I agree with you. When you do your budgeting, I have very little. I do some budgets. I do some advertisements in my local, the Westchester magazines and things like
yeah,
that. And I do have some kiosks, some wipes of,
yeah.
but those are strategically placed and not that many, and they're not that expensive. So if the market turns a little bit in this business, you can't just be like what happened this year. It has to be
Oh yeah.
a couple of years out. And I actually downsized my office because I'm never in my office. And the funny thing is, I downsized from the first floor to the basement of a building I'm in, and then I rented out the. Then I ended up leasing out the space that I left, and that was like a pretty good budget that paid for a bunch of months of my lease. Guy
There you
didn't
go.
take money; he just credited me rent. So
Perfect.
it really worked out. But ultimately, it's the selling of real estate is probably less of what we do and more of being a business
Yeah.
advocate leader for our clients and also ourselves. And so what's interesting is I when all the Facebook posts about real estate agents, I can't really, it's hard to look at them because
Yeah.
there's too many things like that was my only deal. It fell apart. I have no money. And it's just, oh my God. And there's just like a tale of woe. But
Yeah.
a lot of it might be because the right people aren't, there's too, it's so easy. The barrier to become a real estate agent is so low,
Yeah.
so low. And so there's probably like you can't be a heart surgeon that easy. You have to go to
No.
school and there's a
No.
train. So by the time you're there, you already know it and whatever, but
Yeah.
not in real estate, and
No.
which is a little bit of a danger, right, for a buyer.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I think we see massive rates of people leaving real estate in within the first 2 years, especially. And I think mainly because of the fact that we don't have any systematized education. Take appraisers, for example. To become an appraiser, you got to go to take classes, but then you have to mentor with another appraiser. It depends on the state, but 2,500 hours of mentorship inside of Pennsylvania, as an example, where I live. And I'm sure New York, it's the same thing. I think in real estate, we should make it harder to become a realtor because
Well,
of the fact that,
and I think in the case of the appraisers, it's because the banks aren't stupid. And the
yeah,
banks are like, if we're going to lend all this money, we're going to make sure
yeah,
that the person's trained and knows what he's doing so that we're not going to be lending money on money pits.
that's right.
And that is a little bit of the problem is NAR and all the real, they don't care about the proficiency. They just want to get their $1,000 a year and then
Yeah,
the lockbox fees, right? So it's there's not the long-term view would be that the MLSs and the National Association of Realtors should want better agents because that would make the industry better, but that's not what they've done. And you can argue we're on our own because my view is that NAR sold us down a river with the lawsuits. It was
yeah,
horrible lawyering, and the systems that are in place now actually have on the opposite effect. I think the stats have shown that commissions have gone up, not down, because they took something that used to be more transparent and it's now translucent and it's much more buyer beware than it ever was. It's more the Wild West now, right?
Yeah. Yep. That's it. So it's it.
That's the good thing is that there's a lot of noise going on in real estate. There's a lot of noise going on in politics.
Yeah.
And I think it's generally better and safer to keep your head down and work on your markets, right? I'm Switzerland.
Oh
My
yeah. For
clients,
sure.
I actually feel that way though, that I generally don't like either side politically.
Yeah.
So I'm more of a moderate, and there's good things and bad things with both sides. And ultimately, my job's not to worry about who you like.
Yeah.
It's about getting you to a home or an investment that works for you. And so I think that takes
Yeah.
a certain
That's it.
mentality, right? And
Yeah.
so I think if you love your business, love your life, and love people, I think that's the only thing is that politics has become too political. It used to be that different sides still wanted to help Americans and they get in a room and they figure it out. And
Sure.
hopefully they'll get back to that because that's right. That's our job. Our job
Yeah.
is to get in a room. And if you represent the buyer and I represent the seller, and
Yeah.
we have to have a
Operation.
meeting of the
Yeah.
minds
Yeah.
and no, the best deal is that no one's getting screwed, that both of our clients are getting something from it.
Yeah.
So it's really the same, isn't it? It's the same type of
Yeah.
negotiation.
I truly believe that 98% of the people in America believe in almost identical same things of what they want. And unfortunately, with the internet and with social media, I think we get focused on the 1% on either side, and that gets amplified. And if you are, as a realtor, my recommendation is you can have your personal views, but you're running a business. You don't walk into a coffee shop and that coffee shop is putting their political views out. Or they shouldn't. Sometimes you
Oh,
might.
no, we have a beverage store, a local beverage store that does, and
Yeah,
draped political signs all over the store. And I'm like,
it
I'm
hurts
not
their
going to go.
business.
And I'm
It
like,
hurts their
I'm
business.
not going to you
Yeah,
because you're a bad business person. Just
yeah,
because you
yeah,
shouldn't be doing that. You're clearly doing that to try to you're doing it to show what your views are. And I'm okay with that. It is America still, and you can say
yeah.
that.
You
But
can
you're
do whatever.
pissing off the other side. And
Yeah,
this is a business. It's a
yeah,
beverage store. Don't
yeah.
you just want to sell booze? And
Exactly. I
and
know.
maybe not, because some people might be like, no, I only want to sell to booze to people that agree with me. And I'm like, so that
Yeah,
is fair. But
yeah.
I'm
And
like,
again,
I now
this country's been was founded on two sides of very different. We've been in a situation for our entire history of opposing political views. And unfortunately, we're entering a world where there's the other being created, like the other side is wrong or bad, or where as opposed to we are all one people with different views. And I think that's,
right.
if you think about the post 9/11 mentality, that's a world we need to get back to, that we are all one. And we're at the end of the
Yeah.
day, we can have different views and still be all good people. And
That's
anyways, we
that's
don't need to
that's
go.
that's our hope. That's
Yeah,
my hope.
yeah,
I don't know, but ultimately, me focus on watching a news channel cycles all the time isn't going to help my business
nope,
or make me probably feel good
yeah,
mentally, right?
yeah,
So it's much better me being in my text all the time, talking to clients, trying
yeah,
to because
exactly.
so that's my fallback is more work because I love my work, and then I'm just dealing with people and their political views. It's interesting because sometimes you have people and they bring different, and I have people that are texting me political stuff, and I try to stay open minded, right? Because like I said, both sides have points, and that's where I'm like a teacher, right?
Yeah,
So somebody on maybe a different philosophy as me, sometimes I have to listen to them because maybe it is something that I haven't thought about, and other times you can bring in things that
yeah,
you feel and then try to find commonality. I think that's really the point, is finding
for sure.
commonality. And I think having that open mind is good in real estate, it's good in life. And
Agree.
so,
Yeah,
but that's really, you and I could probably talk for hours here.
yeah,
Um, but I love everything about how you've built your business, from teaching to still teaching to
yeah,
real estate, and really trying to help your clients. It's not just these scripts and that's not really going to help. It's really a globalist view of like body, mind,
that's it.
spirit,
Yeah,
education, and this whole plan of how do you run your business and how do you help other people get to where they're getting at. And I think that's great. And so can you just give us a little bit of how can people get in contact with you,
sure,
and if
sure.
they want to do your coaching?
Yeah, so my website is withheartcoaching.com. My real estate team was called Real Estate with Heart. So when I formed my coaching company, I just removed the real estate and made it stand out. But it really speaks to my philosophy on life and business of leading from the heart. If you wanted to email me, it's skye at withheartcoaching.com. And then my Instagram is at Skye Michaels, which is spelled Skyemichiels, and that's on Instagram. And those are three easy ways to get in touch with me. And I'm here to help anyone. And I love the practice of real estate. It's something that changed my life and just changed many people's lives. And it sounds including yours, Daniel. So
Absolutely. So thank you very much for coming on. I
thank you.
appreciate you investing this 45 minutes or so with me and with everyone else who's going to tune on. Obviously, when it's up and running, you can link it as well. So
Yep.
hopefully your people will be able to see it. But I appreciate it. You're going to be, you have been successful. You're going to continue to be
Thank you.
successful. Because that's what people are looking for. And so I definitely see value in everything that you do. I appreciate it. Skye Michaels, thanks for coming on. For
Thank you.
everyone, it's Daniel Berger with another episode of The Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. Thank you for listening. And until next time, thank you again.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks for joining me on The Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. I hope you enjoyed our time together as much as I did. If you laughed, learned something, or just had a good time, do yourself a favor and subscribe to the podcast. A big shout out to our sponsor, Remax Prestige Properties, for making this all possible. Remember to leave a review if you enjoyed the show. It helps more people find us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it fun, and keep exploring the adventures in your neighborhood. I'm Daniel Berger, your New York realtor, and I'll see you in the next episode.